Greetings, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Critical Podcast. My name is Jimmy Good, and joining me, as always, is my go-to podcast compadre, Mr. Joe Lever. Joe, how are you doing today, pal? That good, huh?
That good. Yeah, just a big old grin. I tell you what, I'm doing all right. How you doing, pal?
That was really good. That was like a good radio intro right there, man. You just like rattled that off. I really like that. I want to just welcome everybody for joining us this week. Thank you to our lovely Legionnaires who are here all the time. And if you're joining us for the very first time, we like to talk about movies, TV shows, comics, games, cookbooks, whatever we love. Because guess what? Critical reviews, we talk about anything we love, everything we love. I mean, sometimes it devolves quickly into watching garbage reality TV, which I gave like a 10-minute speech on one of the last times, which was very telling. Anyway, this week, let's get
no
regrets. I gotta catch up. I've been gone. So, I know. I always no regrets.
Sorry, I was eating a Milky Way.
So first off, Joe, let's get into some news here. So Joe, I know your favorite director on the planet is Colin Trevorrow of Jurassic World fame. Like, I know you're a big fan of his, and I know this is really gonna hurt your heart to hear this, but you know, Joe, for a while, he was kind of the guy who's going to do Star Wars Episode 9. He did well for Jurassic World. He did some other things, and, you know, he was going to be that guy. Well, Lucasfilm had a little something to say about that today. Here's what they said. Lucasfilm and Colin Trevorrow have mutually chosen to part ways on Star Wars Episode 9. Colin has been a wonderful collaborator throughout the development process, but we have all come to the conclusion that our visions for the project differ. We wish Colin the best, and we'll be sharing more information about the film soon.
Wow.
Like, I just want to know what happened. Like, you know, did he go in and he's like, he wrote the script and he's like, this is how it's going to go down. And they're like, no. And he's like, so what we're going to have is have a run-in. We're going to have Blue from Jurassic World come running in to save Rey at the last second. He's going to come running in there.
And when it's over, they look at each other and nod over some really enthusiastic music.
And they both just had that mutual, just like
lame.
So, like, do you think this is a good thing, Joe? Because I know we were worried about it when they initially said like he was going to be there. It's like, yeah, you made $500 million in the first weekend for Jurassic World alone, but that, you know, that money does not a good movie make. And I think going back, you and I have kind of had some mixed feelings at best, down to kind of negative. But do you think this is a good move for Disney and Lucasfilm to kind of say like, hey, like, we're not going to have you be part of this anymore, and just kind of shoo him out the door? How do you feel about it?
Well, clearly, if the guy doesn't have the same vision they do, dump him.
Yeah.
Because I think we know who has the overarching world view on this thing, large picture view.
Yeah.
They see it long term more so than this director is thinking. You know what I mean? So any ideas they have are probably the right ones. So if they made the call, then good on them.
Yeah. Well, it's not like I was gonna say, I hate to cut you off. I was gonna say it's not like we haven't seen this before. They just talked about this Han Solo. Remember, they got rid of those directors and they got Ron Howard to come in because they're like, we don't know. Like, they didn't like the improvisational skills of the kind of style they were shooting it, and that's why I think they kicked him. And I don't. To me, like, it seems like that just means they're taking it super seriously and that they don't want to just, like, they'll give a director a shot, but they're not going to let the director do whatever they want with it, because that could ruin, like, a multi-billion-dollar brand if, like, one of these, especially episodes, like pure episodes, you can kind of, like with Rogue One or the Han Solo standalone, maybe you can have a little more wiggle room, but, like, those episodes need to be tight. They need to be focused. And if they aren't going the way that Disney and Lucasfilm wants it to, like, bye-bye. Like, you know, it's not even a question, right? So I don't think it's, I don't think it's a bad thing. So you're not concerned at all. You're just kind of like, whatever.
No, I think when you know, the overarching studio and Lucasfilms, I mean, when they make a call, they make it for a reason. So, and like you say, I think they have to stick to a more stringent, detailed plan with these episodes as opposed to kind of the one-off films. So
yeah. And also, like we talked about in the past, Disney saying that they want to make Star Wars feel like an event, and that after Episode 9, they might wait a couple of years before they start like Episode 10. They might have do like a few one-offs here and there just to keep it going. But I think if they were worried, especially with like Episode 7 getting people back into it, if Episode 9 doesn't do well, people are going to be less enthusiastic going into a new trilogy or a new part of that saga. So I get it. You know, it's just a lot of money on the table, and you can't screw around with that. Like, Disney's not going to let you do whatever you want. And I understand that, like, for directors, they have kind of those they don't want creative restraints all the time. But with this much money and this much, these many like people's jobs and livelihoods on the line, like, I get that they don't want to just play fast and loose and say like, hey, you know what, just do whatever you want. Doesn't matter what you do with Star Wars. Like, Star Wars is a very sacred thing, and they do not want the wrath of Star Wars fans. Like, that is the biggest thing. Disney's like, please, we want you to love us. So I think it's all right. It's gonna be okay. Joe, it's time to speculate. It's why the wrath of the Star Wars fans. It's a thing, man. You don't want to do it. I
can imagine.
I mean, look at me, Joe. Look at me. I'm one of them. I'm right here. I'm wearing it. I like.
Yeah. So one time in a podcast, I mentioned how indifferent I am to the Star Wars franchise and how much I haven't seen them all, except for the 2 recent ones. And I remember the look on your face was one of hatred and disgust. So I can only imagine what the listeners' reaction was. The listeners are probably like, oh, never again am I listening to this.
No, I like that perspective, because honestly, it's kind of like with Doctor Who or Game of Thrones for me, that I'm sure people are like, how, Jimmy, you love Lord of the Rings, you love all this stuff, like high fantasy, why don't you watch this? And I will when it's all done. But right now, it's kind of nice to have a few things that both of us aren't like super well versed in, because if we both were, then it wouldn't maybe be as interesting. You know, I like that outsider perspective. My thing is, I just want to, like, I'd rather watch Game of Thrones like with you, or I'd rather watch Star Wars like with you and just have you like commentate on the whole thing. Like, you'd be like, that looks dated, that looks like crap, and I'd be like, well, back in the 70s it was pretty good. And you'd be like, looks like garbage now. Like, that would be a cool new perspective, because it's like the diehard fans are like, how dare you criticize this thing? It's my childhood. And it's like, all right, easy, pal. Like, everyone's seen this. Like, calm down. It's like, I got a tattoo of it.
Speaking of, yeah, I would totally watch Game of Thrones from start to finish with you.
I'm telling you, man, I just want it to be done, because there's still a part of me that thinks like it's never truly going to be done, because people are like, it's got like a few episodes left, it's only like 2 years away. And I'm like, you say that, but then it's like, I think of it like this, Joe. It's kind of like if I watched like Fellowship and then Two Towers, and then they're like, Return of the King is coming out in like 5 years. We're pretty sure like it's going to happen. And it's like, I gotta, like, it has to happen. Like, I can't.
Next year, the final season comes out, and each episode is going to be like a feature-length film.
So nuts to me. That's like, I love it, because I'm like, that's nuts, and go big. Like, go big. Like, I appreciate that.
I'm sorry to say. I mean, you are gonna. I think you'll love Game of Thrones. I think the thing is, you would be so hooked. And it'd be awesome to like talk about it between now and the new episodes coming out, season 8, and speculate on things.
Oh, sure. That's fine. Well, I know what we should do, Joe, is there was another show I watched, and it was really cool. For the Easy Allies, they did this, but Brandon plays Pokemon, and he played the very first Pokemon games, and he sat down with Kyle, and Kyle played them, 20 years ago. And so Brandon would talk about like how he felt about the game now, and like where it was going and what he thought. So like, I would love to do that kind of similar thing with you, where I sit down, I'm like, all right, I watched the first 3 episodes, and then I would say like, I think this person does this, or I think this person is going to be like this, or I really like this person, and you're just like, don't get attached. And I'm just like, I'll be like, I love that person. So
calm down.
Yeah, exactly. I'm in it for Ned.
Bad news.
Sean Bean's gonna make it at the end. He's gonna make it all the way. I love that show. So
I would literally, like, if somebody ever told me that they just started watching Game of Thrones, I would lose myself. I would start laughing hysterically.
It's gonna be good. We got to make that a show, man. I don't know what we're gonna call it, but yeah, we'll think of something like Good of Thrones or something, or I don't know. We'll talk about it.
Oh yeah, battle. Oh, we got to spitball this. Think of something good.
Yeah, I don't know, what would it be like.
Ooh.
We could like talk about it laying down, and we could call it Game of Prones. You know, like I'm like laying down like this. So like my feet kicking in the back, like
like a girl's slumber party.
Yeah, I know. Oh my gosh, I love like the House of Stark.
That Jon Snow.
Oh my gosh, he's so dreamy. I gotta
All right, we're done.
Stop doing my Valley Girl impersonation. To all my Valley Girls out there, I love you. Don't change. Anyway, time to speculate, Joe. Crystal Dynamics making an Avengers game. They put out a few different job listings for a combat designer and a lead level designer. These might be two separate things. However, they want something for a third-person cover-based action adventure game. Joe, help me speculate. What are we thinking? We're talking Avengers. We're talking third-person cover-based action. I go right to Hawkeye. Like, that doesn't seem like a good, like, thing to base a game around. But, like, he's the first one I come to, and I'm thinking, like, third-person action, like, or third-person cover-based. Like, or Black Widow. Like, Hulk's not hiding behind, like, Thor's not hiding behind cover. You know, unless Captain America gets a gun, which is always fun. Like, that doesn't, he's, like, throwing the shield and he's just gunning people down. But I don't know. What do you think, Joe? Who do you think would be a good fit for, like, that style of game? It might not just be all that, but, like, which Avenger do you think would go there first?
Yeah, it'd be Hawkeye or Black Widow, the first two that I think of. They're the ones that are going to maybe, you know, somebody that's maybe attacking more from range.
Yep. Yeah, or maybe you could throw Mjolnir or something like that, but that would just, like, crush cover. Like, it should have destructible cover if you throw that thing. You know, it should blast through
right. Yeah, I don't know. Hawkeye lends himself well towards it. You know, cover, shoot.
Like trick shots, you know, and trick arrows and things like that.
Yeah.
Another thing they talked
Iron
about
Man.
here. They've done Iron Man games. They've done Iron Man games, and the concept is really cool. It's just they didn't have the tech at the time wasn't good enough, or like they didn't make a Just Cause 3. Like Just Cause 3 is the closest thing to an Iron Man game. Like in an Iron Man game, you want a big open area where you can like land, pick up a tank, throw it, blow up the tank, you know, like fly around really fast and just take everybody out. But that game had some of that. It just wasn't as good. The other thing they talk about here is the social implications of shared gameplay, which might be hinting towards like an MMO, an online type of thing, like where you and I would play and we could like get together and do something or do a quest or whatever. But the question is like, if it's that, you look at like, all right, but there's still Hulk, there's still Thor, there's still Scarlet Witch. You know, they could bring Doctor Strange in on this. We don't know. But I don't know, which character would you want to see out of any of those be featured? It probably will be a few of them, but is there one where in particular, like, please, it's got to be, you know, this guy or this woman as the main character?
Go over the concept a little bit, Morgan.
They said they're looking for a lead level designer and a combat designer for a third-person cover-based action-adventure game with social implications of shared gaming.
So am I thinking like a third-person shooter, like Gears of War?
Maybe, but then at the same time, it might be third-person action, more like a Devil May Cry or a Darksiders, where it's like you follow that from that perspective, but it's like Hulk or Thor or Cap, you know, punching people up in the air and kind of slamming them down and throwing them at other people. But like, which of those characters, like, what would you want to play as? Who do you want to play as?
Captain America, Winter Soldier, and the Archer.
I didn't even think about Winter Soldier, man. Like, think of playing a third-person cover-based shooter as the Winter Soldier and, like, running up to people, just throwing them and shooting guys and just punching through walls.
And what I'm picturing here is something that's a bit more speed-based. Yeah. Like, you run from cover to cover to, like, close in the gap on your enemy sort of a deal, and then it's speed from there on out, and you just take them out one by one. Mm-hmm. A little bit like For Honor, minus, you know, a little bit more, you know, a little less gun and shooting type stuff and more combat moves. Yeah, and I think that's a good pick for like those two specifically, like Cap and Winter Soldier, because if you have somebody like Thor or Hulk, you have to make like enemies that are so big and tough and strong, you know, that like they have a hard time, like with like Cap would have a hard time with like maybe a big brute who knew what he was doing. Like it might be more of a one-off, whereas like if Hulk fought that same guy, you know, he just like
hit him once, or Thor would just one hit with the hammer and it would just be done. So that's why I think it lends itself better if it's like the not as powerful members of the Avengers who kind of fulfill that role. But yeah, man, if you do that, or Falcon maybe, like he's got guns, you could do that with his Uzis or whatever and fly around. That'd be a lot of fun too. I'm hoping that it's open world though. I hope it's I'm not seeing that here. They might have said it's open world, but I would love that. I would love to have a big Avengers game. The problem is just like kind of balancing your characters, because it's like, why would I play as Black Widow or Hawkeye when I can just play as Hulk? Just like crush my way through a level. Or maybe they'll just force you to play as certain ones on certain levels. Like you have like a stealth level with Black Widow and then like a big military base with Hulk or something. Would you like to see something like that?
Yeah, I think I would. Yeah, it would have to be something large scale, almost like Titanfall style. You know what I mean? Like you get kind of a swarm of bots and you kind of run in there as if you were in a Titan. And just melee the shit out of them, like a Winston in a mosh pit.
Dude, that especially
in his alt.
I keep forgetting Iron Man, but Iron Man, like if you were like I was Iron Man and you were Thor or Hulk or whatever, like running into a big place with just like 1,000 enemies, like that would be a lot of fun to do, and like combos and stuff, because that's one of the most fun things about like the Avengers is like them teaming up to do an attack to like blow something up or do something really cool. It's like, yeah, it's really cool. So
heck yeah.
I'm really hopeful for this game. We haven't had a big kind of Avengers type game yet. We've had like other kind of like top-down games. We have like Marvel Ultimate Alliance and things like that, but we haven't had one since the Avengers kind of broke onto the scene. And I think Disney knew that like a long time ago. They said we weren't going to make games unless they were like really good games for the most part, unless they're like mobile games. So I'm really excited for this. I hope it's good, and I'm excited to see more. I just want to know. Just give me one. You give me one superhero's name, and then we can start really getting into it. But yeah, that was pretty cool. I'm excited about it. All right, would you be interested in actually playing this type of game?
I think so. I think based on our speculations, if it's something similar to that, I think it could be a lot of fun. And they're going to get creative with it. So
yeah.
Once we know more, we should bring this one back up as a topic, because it does sound like it's got some potential for sure.
Yeah, I'd say for personally, like my hypometer right now, it's kind of hard to judge because I don't really know what it's going to be. But obviously, if it's like an Avengers thing, I'm already at like a 7 or an 8 because I'm like, oh, cool. Like I've been hungry for that for a long time because I played like the Iron Man game. There was the Thor game. Apparently, there's a pretty decent Captain America game. So, yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'm just going to leave my hypometer off for now till I hear a little bit more to go on.
Switch it off. That's all right. All right. Well, Joe, that's most of the big news that I can think of for this week. If I find any more, that's kind of the stuff I wanted to cover. But for right now, Joe, it's time to get into the meat of the podcast. It's time to dig in, because tonight we will be discussing summer movies. I know what you're thinking, Jimmy. You've talked about them all, but I want to do a quick wrap up for the people who might have missed our thoughts on it. We'll be quick about this. We'll just go over the ones we saw in theaters or the ones we reviewed, which I reviewed a lot. I really didn't plan on reviewing as many as I did, but then I did. And Joe might have seen one or two that I didn't. So I would love to talk about them. But the very first one, the one that kicked it all off back in May, was the Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. Joe, how did you feel about this film? Because you went and saw it a few weeks later, didn't you?
Jimmy, I have a confession to make.
Uh-oh.
I haven't seen it.
I thought you saw it. I thought you told me you saw it. Maybe I'm crazy. Did you not see it? I apologize.
I think you're crazy. I haven't seen it. I'm sorry.
That's fine. Did you see the first one?
Yeah, I saw the first one, and I wonder. I don't know. Once it starts to get real out there and kind of spacey, never really left a lasting impression on me. This Guardians of the Galaxy was good. Don't get me wrong. It's just it wasn't like lighting a fire under me to get me to the theater.
Yeah. I get that.
So,
was there any character in particular I forget that you actually maybe liked, or were you kind of like not interested in any of them?
For some reason, I kind of liked Gamora.
Yeah, she's cool.
Zoe Saldana, right? So
what a treasure that lady is. Like seriously.
I don't know why, but there's not much to her character, not a lot of dialogue or anything, but something interesting about her. So
Yeah, no, I'm with you there for sure. She gets sidelined in the second one too, which really sucks because like out of all the characters, they all get a little bit more time to kind of flesh out a bit. But she gets like kind of relegated and delegated to being like a love interest for Star-Lord, and then just like
Of
Nebula's
course.
and Nebula's sister. Nebula is so much cooler in this movie. She was the bald like blue one from the
Yeah.
first one. And she has a cool like backstory as to why she wants to kill Gamora and all this stuff. And she's like an interesting character. And Gamora just doesn't like, because of that, she isn't very proactive. She doesn't get a chance to do anything else, and it kind of sucks because honestly, she's more interesting to me than Star-Lord. Like, I just don't really care. It's just a lot of Chris Pratt. But anyway, I like the movie a lot. I don't know if you guys have seen the review, but if you want to, I'm sure I've linked it somewhere. But I think it's a good movie. I liked it. It's a lot like Avengers: Age of Ultron. It's a lot of the same from the first one, but I don't know like what else they could have done that to be much better. Like, it was just as good, if not better, to me. And I thought the first one was pretty good too. So I really enjoyed it. Obviously, the music's back. The flashy stuff is back. They might have gone a little too much on some of their jokes, like a little too like kid humor.
Yeah.
Which is like, it's fine. It's just a little grating to me because it kind of takes like any gravitas in a situation like completely out of it if you do it too frequently. Like if you're like you're about to die and you're just like saying these like stupid little jokes to each other, and you're like, okay, that's fine. I guess everyone's a jokester in this movie too. Like, they stop, like Drax is a jokester now. Like in the first one, it was very much like he was like, if you said something, he would take it literally. He's like, if you threw, it's like, it would not go over my head. I would catch it, you know, like, like, okay,
Yeah.
like that was funny. But now he's like
Yeah.
making jokes. It's like a little much.
Yeah. See, sometimes I get turned off by that humor. I prefer more adult humor, I guess. And the whole him being literal all the time, I felt was highbrow enough that I enjoyed it. That was
Exactly.
very appropriate. And it was kind of a quirky thing for the character.
Yeah.
So I don't know. And sometimes I picked up on that even in the first one. I don't know that I can necessarily call out specific examples, but if the humor, like, it seems like it can be one of those movies that's appeals to the mass audience regardless of age.
Yeah.
Don't mix kid humor in there. You know, I mean, there can be a little bit of that, but don't overstuff it with stuff that's like, you know, we got to make sure that even 10-year-olds could understand this joke.
Yeah, that's true. And typically, like in the Avengers and stuff, they don't usually do that type of like kind of potty humor. Like this one, they kind of get into it a little bit, and it's like, all right, guys, like ease off just a smidge. And it really kind of sucked because I knew like Baby Groot is really cute, but like from the get-go, like the movie is like, it feels like it's just like a marketing campaign for that character. Like right away, it's like, it's a little much, guys. Like, bring it back. Like, you know, I know you love your mascots, but like this is like too much. It's like, that's why I'm glad the Avengers doesn't have a mascot like that right now. That they're just like, look at it, it's so cute, you gotta love it. Buy the stuffed animal, buy the action figure. But yeah, pretty solid movie. I still really liked it. I probably was like a little too nice to it, but we'll see as time goes on where I feel about it. But I have to see it again. One thing I will say about this one though, Joe, is the villain was much better. I'm not going to get too much into it because it'd be kind of spoiler territory. Villain's really good, and they have some other talent in there too, which I really liked. Like Sylvester Stallone's in there a little bit. He's not in it too much. Michael Rosenbaum makes an appearance for just a little bit. And obviously Kurt Russell. Kurt Russell is one of my, he might be one of my favorite actors. Every time I see him in something, like even Fast and Furious, I think, you're too good for this franchise, and you're just like eating up every scene you're in, dude. Like, I really like that guy. He's just a talented actor, and we'll talk about more talented actors as we go down the list. But Joe, the next movie we're going to talk about is a movie that you for sure saw. Heck, you even reviewed it. We're talking Alien Covenant, baby. Alien Covenant. Tell me about Alien Covenant.
I thought it was really good. I don't really ever doubt anything that Ridley Scott puts out. Sometimes I felt like I wanted to see a little bit more Alien, but I think it was just right. It really was. And I love the twisty turniness of it. And at the end, I'm forgetting the character, but Fassbender plays him, and
David.
David. I love how that kind of twisted and turned at the end. And it was somewhat predictable, but it was neat. It really was. And with the CG that they can do these days, along with the practical effects, it was awesome. It was really cool. So, and I like the storyline now with Prometheus being out there, and then them expanding a little bit more on this race. This alien race, I forget what they call them, the engineers.
That scene's good, by the way, when he attacks the engineer home planet or whatever, or the outpost or whatever it is. Like that, I love that. Like that kind of stuff. I'm like, this is like a mythos scene. Like you're seeing something like huge happening. You're like, oh.
Exactly, and see what they've done with Prometheus, and now this film, they've added more to the mythos of the whole alien deal. Not to mention this one, you kind of see how the alien was originally created.
Yep.
Cool.
Yep. Yeah. My only problem is like for Alien fans, it just takes like basically 2 movies to get to the xenomorph, which is like, it's just such a long slog. If you're like, oh, I love Alien, it's like, it's going to take a while. And both films, and especially this one too, like it does still suffer from some of the truly dumbest people I've ever seen. In my life, like seriously, like what are you even doing? What, guys, you aren't scientists, like but some of you are, and it's like I'm gonna go over here, have a smoke or whatever. It's like, please stop doing these horror tropes. I can't take it. But yeah,
it's too bad. I mean, would you have known not to step where you stepped?
But I would never go on a planet with, even if they said, oh yes, it's breathable, like I would be like, I'm leaving this on, and I have a gun with me. Like I would never ever like come on, it's like 101. Like it's just really dumb, and it's cool to finally see the xenomorph. And this movie is definitely scarier than Prometheus, which was nice, because like Prometheus has some creepy moments, but like this movie has some like genuine like, oh god.
Like this is much more true to the alien thriller horror that you expect. So
the one thing I wish they would have done, Joe, is like, I know the last maybe like 20 minutes is like Alien 1 again, like back on the ship, and it's in the ship, and I like that, and I kind of wish more of the movie was that. I don't need a full rehash, but to finally see a xenomorph, like CGI, like a good looking xenomorph, like full CGI. Think of like the whole or half the movie would have been that. They'd been like, there's one out there, and we don't know what to do. Like it's killing us, and like we just find people just ripped in half, or just like acid everywhere. People be like, like obviously we've seen that before, but seeing it move as fast as it did, you're like and it's running at you, like that was what got people into the theater. Seeing it like slobbering on top of the ship, and it's so like that moment at the end where she's spoilers, she's like fighting it, and like she's like hanging off the side trying to shoot it and stuff. It's like, wow, that whole sequence is like really like suspenseful, because that movie's got such a slow like build into
a little bit of a ramp up, and it's pretty gradual for the most part. When they're on the planet, however, I did enjoy they did make a good connection of this film to Prometheus.
Yes,
as far as the segue goes. So that transition, I think, was well done. And then when they discover the first version of David from that expedition, and he is, I thought that was really interesting, and it was cool to see as they fleshed him out a bit more, and how he was doing all these experiments in bioengineering and stuff like that. That was really cool, and showing kind of all the different creatures he had kind of created, so to speak. Yeah. So that was interesting. I almost wanted a little bit more of that, to kind of see what he had done, and like what had kind of transpired while he was there. Besides, he laid that siege on the engineers and took them all out, and then you knew he was experimenting. But I mean, like, what had actually taken place during that time? Because you see, there are like multiple variations of what they call the one, but it's not a xenomorph, but there's like multiple renditions, versions, depending on what the host was, is what it seems, or how the infection occurred. So the one that he's created, though, is the metamorphical step, the face hugger, then the xenomorph bursting out and all that. So
Yeah, I'm hoping we get kind of a similar treatment into the backstory of something like the Predators. I kind of imagine it being almost like 300, where you kind of see like little young predators fighting each other, and they're like, "Oh, this is how they're raised," or whatever, and like this is how the hierarchy works. And because Predator obviously is my thing, but they don't have like as much of a monstery, kind of transition from like, "Oh, this is like this makes you into a predator." It's like, no, Predator will just like pick you up and rip you in half and be like.
Yeah.
But for fun, Joe, while we go through these. Do you want to guess at the Rotten Tomato scores for these? First off, Guardians of the Galaxy. Do you have a guess?
I'd probably say it probably got like a 80 to 85%.
Very good, 81%. How about Alien Covenant?
I'd be willing to guess it got like a 75-ish.
Dang, you're 70%. Very good, Joe.
Right on.
Very good. Next,
it deserved better.
I'm going to talk about this briefly because I don't want to talk about it too long. I saw Baywatch. Just didn't want to talk about it.
Did you really?
Yeah.
You saw it? I didn't know that.
Not great. It has a few moments that are kind of funny, but it is not like when I think of a comedy, think of it like a horror movie. So like how many scares are you getting in a horror movie or suspenseful moments? In a comedy, you have to judge for me like how much you're laughing. And as much as I like The Rock, I don't know if he's that good of a comedian. Like I've seen a bunch of movies and I always like him, but he's not that funny. And in this movie, because it's rated R and it's nothing like the old Baywatch, he swears a bunch. And it's so weird to hear him swear. Like he's just like, F you, F that. Like it's like, what? Like it's just so weird.
Not as wholesome as you thought, huh?
No, but like Zac Efron, that's kind of funny. I think Zac Efron is actually pretty funny. Like he can definitely get into it. And they do this moment where they're like, they both pick up like 2 refrigerators and they're like walking with them as like a kind of like a test of strength. And I was like, oh, this has a lot to do with being a lifeguard. And The Rock, you could just see like he's just like a monster, like picking this stuff up. It's like, but yeah, it's fine. Do you want to take a guess? It's not a great movie, but take a guess at what the Rotten Tomatoes score for that movie is.
I want to say I've seen it or the score, and I think it was insanely low, like in the 20s.
18%.
I was close.
Yeah, it was really
like
close.
2 away from 20.
Yeah, it's very good. I'm really impressed right now. It's so good. A movie we both saw, Joe. The next one coming up here: Pirates of the Caribbean. Dead Men Tell No Tales.
Yeah.
Oh boy. All right. I'm gonna level with everybody here. I thought this movie was fine. Okay, it wasn't the best Pirates. It's not Pirates 1, or actually, I kind of like On Stranger Tides, but it was not as bad as Dead Men's Chest or At World's End. It's just in the middle. I thought there were some cool things about it. I think a lot of it was shown in the trailers. I liked the villain, even though he was kind of funny, which again, I reviewed it. So they're all going to be up here, all the reviews. You can just find them. But it's not the worst. It just relied so much on Jack. And I think Jack Sparrow is just a tired main protagonist. I think it's not fun. Like all the cutesy things he does aren't as fun anymore. Like the first few movies we'd see that and you're like, oh, it's a hero we're not used to being kind of like smarmy and kind of like doing a bad thing, but he's still a good guy deep down. Like he's just not like a good person. Like Jack is like the villain in all these things, especially this one. Like he is straight up the reason why these guys are trying to kill everybody. Like they just want to kill him. Like that's all they want to do is like, we're going to kill you because you killed all of us. Like, and they were pirate hunters and Jack's not a good guy. Like everyone's like, oh, Jack's the best. It's like, no, he's a villain. But yeah, also Jeffrey Rush, like he's like the only reason I'm still in these movies. I really do. I really like Barbossa. He is like the truest pirate to me. And I wanted them to double down on his abilities now and all this stuff, because of how cool he is, but they didn't really do that, which sucks. But anyway, yep, not the greatest. Joe, what are your thoughts on Pirates?
I agree with what you had to say, that it's kind of a middle of the road. It was fine. I enjoyed some of the comical moments. I thought the whole hauling of the bank out of the town was ridiculous. And
yeah, oh my God, thank you. I hate that sequence. It pisses me off so much. Just like on a physics-based level, I'm like,
yeah, it just totally defied the laws of physics.
It doesn't make. I was like, there's no. That wall's so reinforced.
Here's the thing: I couldn't tell whether I was watching Fast and Furious or Pirates.
Yeah, it's like when they go to Brazil, just the bank vault, like flying around. Yeah, good call, man. Very good call. Yeah. But did you like anything about this movie?
I did. I liked the villain. I liked some of like the shots of like when they initially died or when they're in the cave.
Yeah.
I thought I thought he was really well done, and I liked the actor that portrayed him. I thought like the accent and everything. I think is really cool and added a bit of sinister style to him. So overall, yeah, I like the villain a lot, and the ship and everything, how it would kind of envelop its enemies. It was cool. And then the ending, they get the black. I mean, it was kind of it was basically a movie built to provide some closure to the series.
Yeah.
You know, at the end, baby, setting sail, and then Orlando Bloom, Will Turner gets to come back to land.
Spoilers.
With his yeah. Rewind. Spoiler switch. Flip.
Honestly, yeah, if they're listening to this point, they should know. I mean, you guys have had time. Exactly. Come on now.
Yeah. If you haven't seen it yet, shame on you.
Yeah, how dare you?
Anywho, I like the closure at the end. I thought it was nice and it was appropriate, and it kind of, our generation, people our age, kind of grew up with these films. Like when we were young teens, these movies were out and coming out, and that's what we were kind of going to see. And to have that closure on a series that was kind of as big of a deal as Pirates was kind of nice, and I thought it was well done. So
yeah, 2 last things I want to say about it. I will say that I wish they would have focused more so on a different plot that focused on Will Turner as the captain of the Flying Dutchman hunting down the ghosts and trying to make them either like move on to the afterlife or join his crew. I think that would have been a better way to like put him into the narrative of the story as opposed to being tacked on at the beginning and end. Yeah. And like his kid, his son, and like that other young woman they were fine, but just kind of blah.
Yeah. I don't think they could afford to pay Orlando Bloom for the full film.
Yeah. I don't know. They had a lot of money in there, but you're right. Maybe he didn't want to. I will say this though. The one really good thing about this, the music is still amazing. And the new score and like everything and like the villain's theme, like all of it is really good. Please, if you check out any musical scores this summer, check out Pirates of the Caribbean, Dead Men Tell No Tales. It is good. Like I'm telling you, I listen to it a bunch. Like even I just like listen to it. It's on my regular day. So yeah, please check that out because it's great. It's really good. Joe, do you want to take a guess at what Pirates of the Caribbean, Dead Men Tell No Tales got for a score on Rotten Tomatoes? What do you think it got?
I could take a guess. I think it probably got a little less than 50%.
A little less than 50%.
Where's abouts?
Actually, it would be 30%. So technically, you're right. People did not like that movie. And I know like the next movie that popped up down here is a movie that you wanted to see, Captain Underpants. What movie were you trying to see? And that one took up the main theater, and you were like, what? There was another movie.
Oh, Wonder Woman.
Which
I was really pissed.
I was gonna say, Joe, that takes us right into the next one we're gonna talk about, Wonder Woman.
Perfect.
Baby. Wonder Woman. Tell me about Wonder Woman. Did you like it? What do you think about it now? You just rewatched it recently, right?
I just rewatched it, and the only thing I have to say about it is that it felt shorter when I wasn't in the theater. And the action sequences really benefit from a really good sound system in a dark room.
Oh, cool. So, like, do you feel like your sounds, like the way you have your setup, is working for you?
I'm in an apartment. So I can't hook up my surround sound. And, but I still enjoyed it. I like it a lot. Certain things that I kind of looked at a little more closely and didn't really like all that much was, I don't know. I felt like the love scenario was slightly forced, just a little bit. It was well done, but I feel like it was rushed a little bit, like how did it happen so quickly, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
But then again, I think they want to allude to a little bit of Wonder Woman's naivety, and that she's never been around man anyway. So this is something that's kind of new to her. So it's kind of interesting to her, and she doesn't exactly know how to approach it anyway.
Yeah.
So she's probably a little overwhelmed by it. So just saying that sentence right there, I think it kind of justifies what happened and how it happened. So, but other than that, I mean, the action sequences are dropping my water.
I was like, drop the mic. He's like, I'm done with it. Great movie.
Great movie. It was just a very stellar movie. Well done. Hard to really find anything to complain about. It didn't totally defy laws of physics in any way.
Oh.
And let's face it, casting her as Wonder Woman, Gal Gadot, probably the best decision DC's made to date. She really does a good job. Her accent is appropriate.
Yep.
She looks the part very well. And overall, as an actress, from what I've seen of her in the public eye, she seems like a very good ambassador for that character. Because I think we all kind of understand that character is a little bit of a idol's the wrong word, but for the everyday woman, right?
What you cut out there for just a second? What was the word?
She kind of serves as like a metaphor or a mirror for the everyday woman, you know?
Yes. Yeah. Definitely.
So yeah, I really think that movie, good on you, DC. Take some notes. And having a female director too, I think it showed in this film. Yeah. And I gotta admit, I think having that feminine mentality towards a film actually benefits it in a way. I don't know if it's because maybe as a woman they're maybe a bit more in tune with how emotions will play off of people, because you and I both said it. I heard somebody else say it. I've seen it on Twitter too. People teared up a little bit during this movie. I mean, it was pretty impactful when she was doing her thing and like, you know, leading the charge. It was and it really was. And they kind of also really do a good job of showing how brutal war was, and like the bad things that would happen. And all you could do is think, man, if there would have been somebody like this or something that gave the good guys the advantage, or the upper hand, it was really cool. So I love that movie and will for a while. I bought the movie because I had to. I wasn't not going to do it. No, I bought the digital version HD copy, I think.
Well, maybe we'll see if you're up for it. But later on, I would not be opposed to getting it myself, and I would love to maybe do a commentary before Justice League comes out just to talk, because I just want to watch it again and I like to talk it through. You know, just be like,
yeah, I think that'd be a good idea. And Jimmy, I think in the near future we may be seeing each other, so we'll have to plan for that.
Yeah. Sorry about dude. If we're together, like I gotta watch Jurassic Park with you. Like I need to do that. Like I need to hear these words.
Jurassic Park or Jurassic?
Oh my
World?
God, either, dude. Like one, like you'd have to watch World.
Do like a
Park
slaughter commentary.
Slaughter. Yeah, let's do Jurassic World. It's just be like, all right, here we are from the freaking beginning. All right, it's a crow. It's a crow foot. Looks like a dino foot, but it's a lie. It's about their divorce. And oh God, just go on. 10 minutes on this divorce subplot.
Hear that, Chris Pratt? We're coming for you.
Watch out, Chris. Yeah, fan of the show, Chris. I never watched it.
That's why. Oh, okay. Then I won't go down the road I was gonna go down.
Bryce Dallas Howard is just like worried. Anyway. So, I echo all the sentiments Joe has about Wonder Woman. I will say this: it was stirring, which usually doesn't happen in an action film. When she got up there and she was leading the charge, like this was like what I've wanted for myself, but also for just like everybody else, all the little girls out there, all the little boys, who cares? Like, this, like, finally a good, strong female protagonist who has superpowers, but is also super compassionate. She's not detached. Like, that's the problem we've been having a lot with Superman lately, is as cool as he is, he's in this, like, iteration, he's so detached from humanity. It's just so like, well, like, you know, you're a human and I'm just a god. Like, you never feel like that with her. Like, until the very end. Like, she's just one of the other combatants in this fight, and it's just, it takes everything I love from Captain America, the first Avenger, and just brings it all back, and I love it. It's good. Gal Gadot, I was so nervous about her. I was like, ugh, can she carry the movie? And like, her and Chris Pine together, though, I was like, this is good, like, very good. So yeah.
One thing I forgot to mention, and we talked about it after we both saw the movie, we talked about it on the podcast, and I think I talked about this point exactly a little bit. Felt like as I was watching it in the theater, you know, I felt like it was a very good foreshadowing of how somebody from the outside looking in would view our modern day conflicts, military conflicts, etc. Political conflicts, etc. Which
would be cool,
yeah. From like a utopian society, they would look in on it and be like, just puzzled as all get out. Like, what are you? What,
like,
what
why?
Are you guys?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I felt like they kind of foreshadowed on that a little bit using the film, not directly whatsoever, but I kind of walked out with that impression, or felt that impression when I was watching it. I was like, man, yeah, imagine that somebody who was never exposed to our world in that way would just look at it like it's asinine. You know what I mean?
Totally. They'd be like, why are you killing each other? For like what purpose? It's like, yeah, it's kind of weird. It's a political thing, but now it's like thousands and millions of people dying for this reason. And you're like, just they told us we had to go. And it's just like, okay.
And not to sound cheesy or anything, but it really does kind of hit home on the whole of aspect of things. Because, you know, that's kind of like her, what's the word? That's kind of what she symbolizes, right?
Sure. Yeah, like hope in a hopeless world, like against like, and she's a warrior, but she's still like, war isn't the solution to this. Like, it's just like, okay.
The one thing I did not enjoy from the film, one thing, the end.
Yeah, that's, you know what it is, Joe? That is,
I was making a joke. Like, I hated when it ended.
Oh, gotcha.
No, I didn't like when she kind of like almost flew off the tower. That was kind of weird.
I'm pretty positive is a direct lead-in to Justice League. You know, the stuff we've seen of her like kicking people down in a museum. I'm pretty positive that is leading straight into Justice League. Like, so that way people are like, oh, when does this happen? It's like right before Justice League, like moments before that movie starts. Like, that's the ending of Wonder Woman, is her jumping off to go and save. So that's probably what we'll see. But you're right, it did look kind of, I was like, but also, they made me love that stupid theme song. I used to hate it in Batman vs Superman, but in this movie, I was like, when they finally brought it out, because they kind of tinted at it, they're like, dun, 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 dun.
Yeah.
And then eventually, like, I was like,
yeah.
I was like, yay.
You're like, I won't lie, I was a little bit like that when they busted in with it, and it was like full bore. I was like, yeah.
Yep.
You know, and it was cool. Oh, there was one other thing I was going to say, and it's on the tip of my tongue. I'm losing it.
Well, if you come back to it.
How did you feel about the god, Ares?
It was fine. I wish he looked a little more like, I like how Ares looks normally when you can't see his face at all, but I think it was like that actor needed screen time, and he looked kind of weirdly CGI when they finally did it. He was fine. It was just it's like such a weird villain to kind of bring up at the very end, because they had like 3 villains in the whole thing. So I would rather have had them kind of bring him up a little bit earlier, but he was fine. I don't know. Wasn't the worst villain.
I felt it was somewhat appropriate and interesting, and it kind of delved more into her story and her history more than anything. And it was kind of like, you know, originally, or to start off in the beginning of the film, you're like, yeah, I wonder what's gonna happen when she realizes like Greek gods aren't real and the whole Ares thing isn't real. And then come to find out it's somebody who you didn't really expect to be the bad guy, and it turns out he is. And I think they did a good job with him. And then not only that, but I never really knew this, but they like pretty much establish her as like a daughter of Zeus.
Yeah, pretty much in this one. That's been a question in the past that I've gotten, and sometimes it's like, is she like a demigod? Is she like a goddess? Like, what's the difference between those things? But for the most part, we can assume in this one that she is basically like a god or goddess, and she has like, she's not affected by like poisons and stuff. She's just kind of like, she could take a hit and she'll just be like, it's fine. Like explosions and things like that. So
I mean, so is she beatable?
Yes, she could be beatable, but it has to be probably like Superman level style person to maybe best her. And I'm not saying like, oh, it's Superman, he's a guy computer. It's like just Superman is just like Wonder Woman's really, 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 really strong. It's like you take Thor and Hulk, and it's the same situation where you're like, Thor and Wonder Woman are like gods, but then you take these other things that are like superseding god levels because they're like, we have no limits to our strength. Like the Hulk's like, I just get stronger. And Superman's like, I will never have a problem with strength. Like strength is not a concept to me anymore. It's just like, I'm the strongest I need to be. Like especially in the comics, like they talk about him holding like a bunch of paper that's like an infinite stack of papers where you're like, that doesn't seem that much. But it's like an infinite stack of anything you shouldn't be able to hold in your hands. Like it's like your upper limits are just like, there are upper limits.
Yeah, I have that problem all the time.
Yeah, I know you do, you son of a gun. Anyway, I will say this though, as far as villains go, he was fine, but he wasn't. Still, General Zod is my favorite. I still think back to that. Like Man of Steel, I love a villain where I'm like, I get you. He's Magneto. I get it. Like I get why you're doing this. Like
that's true.
Like
this one's more of a mythology type base thing.
He's in it for himself. He's like, I want war because I get stronger because of war. You're like, okay, cool. But Joe, what do you think Rotten Tomatoes gives old Wonder Woman? What do you think?
When I checked it, it was like a week after I saw it. It was at 98%.
Okay, what do you think it's at now?
Low 90s, low to mid 90s.
Very good, 92%. That's still pretty good. Holding that is pretty. Yeah,
that's really good. I mean, probably one of the highest rated movies.
Oh yeah,
of the year, maybe.
Yeah, for sure.
Maybe. What other movies have rated that high in the recent past?
Well, for action movies, we should say that because I'm sure there's some like critically acclaimed, like lesser known films that we wouldn't know, and it's like, that's like a 99% or something, and be like, okay, everybody calm down. I'm a critic too. I gotcha. I'm finally in. Next movie, I know you didn't see it, but I saw it. The Mummy, starring my boy Tom Cruise. Again, it was just disappointing. It wants to be an action movie, but it also wants to be a horror film. I think as a horror film, like an R-rated horror film, give it the Alien Covenant treatment, this movie would have been like creepy and wonderful. And there was moments where I was like, this could definitely go in a creepy and bad direction fast. But it just doesn't know what it wants to be. It suffered for it. I really like Tom Cruise, but even he, as a cool action hero, couldn't save this film. His romantic interest was stupid. His sidekick was stupid. I guess Russell Crowe being in there was kind of interesting. They're trying to flesh out the world. But if this is the first step for Universal's dark universe, it's just like a misstep. And I just think Dracula Untold was a better first step. Like, just tell people that's back in. Like, it's fine. Bring Luke Evans back in because, like, he was a
It's been Dracula. Like 4 years, man.
I know, but, like, they're taking so long to do this. And, like, all the movies they've announced for, like, this universe are so obscure. It's like The Bride of Frankenstein and The Invisible Man. It's like, this is going to be the most boring Avengers team-up I've ever seen. Like, give me Wolfman. Give me Dracula. Like, get to those ones. Give me the creature from the Black Lagoon. Don't give me this B-tier stuff. And especially if you see The Mummy and you see what Tom Cruise becomes, you're like, well, that guy seems like he either needs to A, be the villain or not be introduced until later because he's so powerful now. It's like, so it bums me out. And there are cool things in the movie. There's definitely budget, and you can tell it's just not great. It's unfortunate. So
there was a scene in there where Tom Cruise refused, like he made an edit to the script where he did not have to kiss his co-star.
Yes. Yeah. And I don't remember what that was. Like if there was like some sort of like he didn't want to kiss her or there was like some sort of stigma around that. Because I remember we talked about that. Do you know why he edited that out?
No, I don't know. I think he's just like, oh yeah, we're not doing that. And
And
because she was talking about it on some talk show, and she was like offended by it almost.
okay. Yeah. Well, the thing with him is like if you see other movies where he has like he's either all in on the romance, like a Jerry Maguire or Mission Impossible 3, where like that's the big driving factor, and there's really good chemistry he has with his co-star. But in this one, it was just so like the whole thing was like we had one night together, and like oh like I was good, wasn't I? And she's like, oh, you were fine. Like that was their whole relationship, and it was really stupid. There are some cool stunts in there, but the problem is it all looks so CGI. You can never tell like he's actually doing the stunts, and that sucks because there's some really cool stuff. There's a few funny little moments, but yeah. Joe, what do you think this movie got on Rotten Tomatoes? Give me that percentage, man. Don't look it up on your phone. Don't cheat, Joe.
I swear, I'd be willing to bet it was like a 19.
I think you're cheating, but 16%. Very good. Very good.
Right on. Right on. I'm doing all right.
Yep. That's pretty darn good. All right, Joe. Next on the list. Oh, boy.
Hey,
oh
Jimmy,
God.
can we back up for a second? I'm sorry, but the mummy.
All right.
What did you think of the villain, the mummy herself?
I should have mentioned that. She was pretty cool, and they had a moment. There was like a really good moment where she said to them, like in her language, like they're like, you're like a murderer, like you killed your father to like, basically secure your place on the throne, killing her father and then killing, I think, his wife, like he had taken up, and then their son, because the son that he just had was going to supersede her to be pharaoh, and she didn't want to lose that. And she killed them, and she has this really great line where they're like, oh, you're like a murderer, how could we trust you? And she said, like, things were different back then. It was a different time. Like, I had to do this. Like, it's not like it is today. And I really like that because it gives you like a brief moment with Princess Amenet where you're like, oh, like, I get that. Like, she was like, her whole life she was growing up just like, yep, you're gonna be the pharaoh. You're gonna have everything you want in life, and you're not gonna have to worry about anything ever. And then this new thing popped up, and this new like half brother, and she's like, I just can't stand for that. So yeah, I thought she was cool. She had some really creepy moments that were interesting. I just wish they would have, like, I know it sounds weird, but for lack of a better term, I wish they would have fleshed her out more. That's all I'm trying to say. That's all I'm trying to say. But yeah, there we go. Joe, you ready to move on to the next movie?
Ready.
Joe, it's time for Transformers: The Last Night.
Ooh.
You didn't see it, right? You didn't see it at all, right? I don't think you did.
This one I saw.
Oh, you did see this one. Oh, I forgot. I'm sorry, Joe. It's been so many movies. Joe, tell me how you feel about Transformers: The Last Night.
I saw it for the cars, man.
I saw it for the cars, bro. They're so good. A couple of Lambos.
See it.
Yeah. Did you like it compared to like Age of Extinction or Transformers 3 or anything like that?
I like this one better than Age of Extinction. I like this one better than. Hold on. I'm trying to think of what the third one was like.
That was the one in Chicago. Remember, like it was.
Okay. Yep. Hated it. Number three and 4 I hated. The Last Night I liked. So here's my ranking. The first one.
Okay.
Is number 1 is the second film where they're like jumping to Egypt and stuff and all that.
Okay.
Second place is the first one because it was the introductory, it was new, and it was pretty cool and well done, and it was fun. I really thought it was cool. It was fresh. And I kind of liked, I thought if you're going to have people in it, I thought the way that they had Shia LaBeouf and his family in there was kind of appropriate, and then they developed a little bit of a romance with Megan Fox, even though, yeah, it's all kind of like a visual pleasure type of deal. And I liked how he was kind of like an underdog nerd almost, and like, this, very sexy girl ends up liking him. That whole thing, it was kind of like good for him, it was kind of cool. Yeah. And he was kind of involved with something bigger than himself. And for those first two films, it seemed appropriate that he was involved. Then you get to the third one in Chicago, which to me is like dead last. And you're like, yeah, nah, involved. Yeah. So fourth one with Cade Yeager.
Oh, God.
Age of Extinction, and yeah, Dinobots, okay, cool, but it's like, where the freaking hell did they come from? It just was dumb. It was kind of dumb. Whole rally car scene with the kid, the boyfriend, and all that. Like, yeah, dude, I'm sponsored. Like, I put my life into this car. I'm like, just drive it off a cliff.
Your daughter's got the fastest hands in the business. No. No. Don't tell me about my relation. Like, oh my God.
Like, I would have like grappled that guy by the neck and just wailed on him. I don't care if I'm being chased by the government. I'm gonna kill that kid.
Here are the Romeo and Juliet laws talking about our juvenile relationship, even though I'm overage and she's under. It's like, why are we spending time on this and zooming in on the card? I'm like, Michael,
they had to make it seem okay in the eyes of the audience.
Like if they would have just said they're both 18, that would never have had to be a thing. Like, it never had to be a thing. But where's the last one stand, Joe? You said you don't like this. You like this one.
The last night I'm putting in third place.
Okay, fair enough.
And then the other two, I don't even care. Throw them to the wolves.
I just don't care about Transformers anymore. They barely transform. They got Anthony Hopkins to swear. And it was really stupid. He's like, but that ride is bitchin'. And I'm like, what are you even doing? You have Anthony friggin' Hopkins, and he just goes around he's like, oh, this is the backstory. I'm happy. I'm one of the keepers of all this information, and the Witwikis are part of that. And
but I kind of liked the backstory deal on the Transformers and
but they're always doing that.
It was kind of interesting.
Every movie has that. They're like, oh, they were part of they were on there in the moon, or they were part of the Hoover Dam, or all this stuff. It's like, that's only so cool. It's just like a backdoor pilot for like the Bumblebee one, where he used to fight alongside the Allies against the Nazis. It was like, that's cool, but like, I'd just rather see that instead of this.
Yeah, no kidding.
Like, this is the fifth one. It's a lot like Pirates, where it's like, guys, just wrap it up. Also, there is no way I will ever accept freaking Cade Yeager getting Excalibur and keeping Optimus Prime from stabbing Bumblebee or slashing him to death.
Yeah,
he like blocks it. Sense, man. I'm like, no, I don't care if there's magnets involved or whatever. And that movie was like, first off, it's sold on the whole like, oh yeah, there's Transformers. It's a Transformers film. Again, not a lot of Transformers. And then it's like, oh wait, it's Bumblebee versus Optimus. It's gonna be the fight of the century. And it's like, no. They fought for like 25 seconds. Like, they do like a few things, and you're like, you saw it all in the trailers, guys. If you've seen the trailer, like one trailer for that film, you've seen the Optimus Bumblebee fight. It doesn't go any further than that. Like, when you saw Captain America versus Iron Man, there's so much more to that. There's so much more to that in Civil War. In this movie, it's like, no, that's it. And then Cade Yeager saves the day because Mark Wahlberg is, a scientist from Texas. It's like, it's like, what are you doing? Who is the villain? I kind of remember, but it's like, it doesn't even matter.
It doesn't. It's so stupid.
And all the Autobots who were in the last one in Age of Extinction, who were kind of like racial stereotypes, like some of them, I was like, oh, this will give them a chance to like flesh them out and talk about them more and like what they want. No, they don't do that. They're just there to just crack a joke and just.
Yeah. Did you like the whole throwback to the Knights time?
Yes, that was cool. I liked that. That was pretty neat.
That was cool, and I liked the whole Knights of the Round Table deal.
Then there was Stanley Tucci, who was in Age of Extinction, who played Merlin and was like there, and Merlin was like a drunk, and he was talking to the Transformers. Yeah. I was like, guys, like right from that moment, I was like, oh my gosh, of course they're gonna do this. I was like, you're killing me. You're killing me.
But so what about the dragon? They bring that dragon in for the epic battle scene in the end, and it does one or two things, and then it just like totally disappears off the board. You're like, what happened to the giant dragon flying around? And the dragon was the 7 knights or whatever that transformed into it. But
like 12 or whatever it was. It's like they bring like that's one thing again to compare it to Civil War. Like those guys were so cognizant of everybody's powers and like where they were at any time during a fight. In this movie, I feel like they introduced new characters, the Transformers and Decepticons, and then you say like, okay, where are they in relation to anyone else on the battlefield? And where are they right now? And they've been gone for like 8 minutes. And oh no, they're flying in right now. Like, where were you?
yeah,
like, it's just like
the freaking Knights of the Round Table, the big Transformers, like the OG badasses, and they're gonna like, you think, oh well, they're gonna help knock this thing out of the park, right?
Yep. Nope.
Transform into the dragon, and they take out one of the flying ships, and then they just kind of disappear for the rest.
Yep. And then not to mention they have like that little girl who is there and they're like, you shouldn't be here right now. And she's like, you're probably right. And it's like they're bringing like this young girl into like a battle zone with her like BB-8 knockoff. And they're trying to go in there. I'm like,
I don't even know why she was in the film.
You know what I will say though? The only saving grace besides just seeing Anthony Hopkins, Josh Duhamel. That guy needs more work. I like him, and I like him in a military like a military man. I'm like, I like that guy. Like he deserves more work.
That's what I liked about the first two the most is the military involvement, and he was in it, and it was very military based and kind of realistic, real world applications because I like that they featured those things. I thought it was really neat, and in a way, it was a bit of a recruiting film, and I think the military was involved in that aspect for that reason. Yep. But then it kind of faded out a bit, and now it came back just a little.
No, I forgot to talk to you about this, but actually the military lets Michael Bay use like all their stuff as long as he promotes the military in a good light. And those movies, they really like they stir something even in me. I'm like, that's very patriotic. Or I'll be like, look at the military. They're like fighting, especially in 3, they started doing this thing where they were taking like it was the humans were the only ones left, and so they like parachute down and they like wrap the parachute like behind the head of a Decepticon and shoot it in the face or whatever, and they would take it out like really tactically. I was like, oh, that's really cool. But yeah, I like the military twist, especially in that first one. You're like, okay, like there's a lot of stuff going around.
The first couple do a really good job, and I enjoyed it. The second one, the reason I rank it first is because I really love like the desert. Like beaten down city.
Oh sure, yeah. And they have a little bit of that in 1 too. They have like that scorpion that comes up too, like that thing. Like they have some scary stuff, like Decepticons.
Is that in the first or second one?
I thought it was the first one. I think.
Either way, they're both the best ones. So.
Or there's like that jaguar in that one that like kind of vomits up the little drones or whatever, and it's like taking everything out.
Like they take the Transformers and they kind of always show off these new little abilities. This one they don't really do that too much.
No. Yeah, they just and then they like when they transform, it's just like in smoke, and then they like just shoots them out, and you're like, especially after Age of Extinction when they had like those special like computer saver screens, like when they would like transform like the special. Remember, like kind of like being like a circle or like a spiral. Remember that like Megatron would like it was like oh, God, like it keeps turning up Megatron. Anyway, Joe, what do you think this thing got on Rotten Tomatoes?
18%.
15%. Very good, Joe. Very good.
I'm right in the ballpark every time.
This will be a quick one. Yeah, very good. I feel like you're cheating, but I'm gonna believe you. I did see Baby Driver. Pretty good movie. I really liked it. I'd like to see it again. I would like to hear your thoughts on it. I'm not a huge like Edgar Wright is hit or miss for me. And I talked about Scott Pilgrim recently. I watched Hot Fuzz recently too. Yeah. But it's a pretty good movie. Pretty fun heist movie. I like a heist movie. I really do. And especially
it was kind of ampy in the music that it was all played to the music, which is
so like if a guy is shooting a gun, it'd be like bum 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 like that, and to the music it'd be like dun 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 like to a song, and it was
kind of cool.
Yeah, it's very cool. I'd like to see more people do it. And he's a very fast and kinetic edit kind of guy. So like it'll be like if I walked into my room, it would show me like close the door, like put a paper down, and like like that kind of stuff. So they have that in this movie, and yeah, there's a pretty good cast to it too, and it's pretty good. It's pretty good.
How was Jamie Foxx in it and stuff?
He's good. It was nice to see him back as like better than Electro, because that's the last time I saw him as like Amazing Spider-Man 2, which you saw, right, Joe? I think we talked about that.
I thought it was fine. And all.
I hated him. But he's good in this one. He's scary. Like he's like creepy. John Hamm's also very good as a villain in it too. But Joe, what do you think that this movie got on Rotten Tomatoes?
I'm gonna say right around an 80 plus or minus.
93%.
Wow.
Like better than Wonder Woman. That's pretty crazy.
Yeah. I thought it was high. So
thankfully, wow. Joe, after these a few movies, finally after a few weeks, Spider-Man: Homecoming came out. I know we've talked about this one a lot. I don't need to go into it too much, but Michael Keaton's great. I like Tom Holland. I like this movie. It's just like a slimmed down, just like, hey, the Avengers and stuff's happening, but it's like, and Tony Stark and all this stuff that I just like this movie. I love the suit voice, Jennifer Connelly. I just love everybody. I love the comedy. Like, is really good in this movie. I was laughing a bunch. I like the action. I like all the questions of like Peter, not being able to swing through a golf course or swinging through like a little, like a literal neighborhood. And it felt very Ferris Bueller's Day Off. And they even showed that in the movie. And I was like, it's one of the best Spider-Man movies I've ever seen. I was so happy. I loved it. But Joe, what else do you want to say about Spider-Man: Homecoming? How do you feel about the movie now?
I feel pretty good about it. I enjoyed it. I thought that the suit was probably the highlight of the whole thing when he gets the suit and he's like trying to use it and then he like hacks it and stuff. I thought that was probably the banter between him and the suit was probably the best.
The kill mode, the one-shot kill or whatever. It's like, oh, he's like, I hope we see that someday.
No. I hope we get to see him use it. But I thought the suit was probably the coolest thing. And it almost was like, oh man, I wonder what he could do with that freaking suit, right?
Yeah.
But it was interesting, the whole love interest thing, and it turns out that Michael Keaton is the father of his love interest, and he's taking her to homecoming and all that. It was kind of cool. And then at the end, I really liked the Iron Spider suit. That was pretty flashy and neat, and just makes me wonder, ooh, what can that do? You know what I mean? Yeah. But Michael Keaton is the Vulture, probably an A++. Excellent. I really liked him, and I like the design of the Vulture and stuff like that.
Like legit scary. Like,
yeah,
that's scary, dude. When he attacks him, you're like, oh my gosh, like. Ooh,
and
boy.
I was worried for Spider-Man a few times. I really was like, man, this kid is like kind of. I thought he would have had it together and like, oh, he could tackle almost anything after seeing him in Civil War, but he's still pretty green. You know?
Very green.
Which is okay and it's appropriate, but the movie didn't. It was good. They featured Iron Man. Probably the right amount. It wasn't overly done. And when they did, and like the phone calls and stuff, I thought that was interesting. Or like when the suit would show up and he's not even in it. That was neat.
Oh yeah.
That was neat.
That scene. Okay. Yeah. Oh, like when Iron Man would show up?
Yeah. The boat sequence, he shows up and he does all that work, but he's not even in the suit.
He's in at that time. Remember he steps out of it?
Oh yeah, because that was kind of the big show. What was the other time though that it shows
saves him after the Vulture drops him and he's got the parachute and he falls in the water and then he picks him up and then he like brings him like and he's sitting on that jungle, not the jungle gym, but like that half dome thing, and he's just like talking to the suit and he's like, come on, man. I kind of wish they hadn't showed that in the trailers, because I was talking to Kyle about that when he was on. And he said, like, they showed that in the trailers because that moment means a lot more, because he's like, dude, you're not even here right now. You can't give me this crap. And then, like, Tony Stark, like, just steps out of the suit. And he's like, okay. Yeah. Like, it's like, all right, cool.
It kind of makes you realize how big of a deal Tony Stark is, because we get so much of him all the time that when you realize, like, he's more than a celebrity. He's a phenom. You know what I mean?
True that.
So him stepping out of the suit right in front of him was a very impactful thing for Peter. So, the movie was really good. I enjoyed it a lot. I did not regret going to see it one bit. I wasn't amped enough to go back and see it again, but I enjoyed it. And it was well done.
I said
in my eyes, I preferred the Wonder Woman movie a little more, and I'm not sure how to differentiate why. Something with my personal taste, but needless to say, very good movie. So
I said this about Kurt Russell earlier. We're going to talk about better actors, but we did talk a little bit about Michael Keaton. Michael Keaton once again, one of, I think, maybe the best actors I know. I just watched The Founder recently, and that was great too. But that guy just like the ability for an actor to be both terrifying, but then also really, really likable is just like really impressive to me,
Yeah.
especially when you like kind of find out more about him and why he does what he's doing. Like there is a reason. Like the first 8 minutes of that film is like the reason he's doing this, and I absolutely love it. They could have gone right into Tom Holland or Avengers stuff. It's like, no, we're gonna focus on the aftermath of the Avengers and why this guy is doing this stuff and why his crew is doing this. It's like,
Yeah, it's really interesting. A character that's kind of historic to the Spider-Man franchise as a whole, connecting it to this overarching universe that they've created, and that he's like a construction demo crew cleaning up the remnants of the Avengers, or no,
the Chitauri.
the alien Chitauri. Yeah, that whole attack thing. I think it's cool the way they tie that together. It really stitches together nicely. So,
and it's so cool, just like the practicality of his suit and why he has it the way he does, and then later on, just realizing like, oh, he's like literally a vulture. Like he finds like prey that like is like on like a cargo thing, and he like just goes down, just takes what he wants, and then just leaves. Like it's not like he's like outright attacking things all the time, but he totally could. Like it's like, okay, this guy.
Yeah, he has that capability, but yeah, what he's built as far as that suit, it's basically specialized to do just that, is scavenge items.
And he's not a big enough threat where like Iron Man has gotten to the point, like after that, his final like big heist, like I'm sure he would have been like up there where Iron Man's like, all right, we got to deal with this guy. But like up till that point, he's kind of like, he's small fry. And he knows it. He's like, I'm not going for the big scores. He's like, I'm just trying to get by. And I'm not trying to draw the ire of Tony Stark and everybody that I hate. He's like, I'm just trying to make some money, like, get back what I deserve. So yeah. Joe, what do you think Spider-Man Homecoming got Rotten Tomatoes?
Oh man, excuse me. I know it's got to be over 90%, and I'm going to. What did Wonder Woman get, Jimmy?
92, I believe.
Spider-Man got a 92%.
That is correct. Very good, Joe.
Yeah.
I think that's a pretty apt score. Anyway, moving on. I know you didn't see this one. War for the Planet of the Apes. Good movie, not a feel-good movie. Andy Serkis deserves an Oscar. He is incredible. The special effects are just like the look of the apes, like Weta. Like there's this one moment the orangutan kind of like moves towards the screen, and it's like that thing's real. Like it has to be real. And I'm really picky about that sort of thing. And that alone was just really good. Not the greatest story, but just the apes themselves. Like I could just watch them hang out. And that movie, that does what Transformers doesn't do. It talks about the apes, and they're the main focus. It's never like, why aren't there more apes? It's like, nope, they are the primary focus, and they all look great, and it's incredible. Wonderful. Joe, what do you think it got on Rotten Tomatoes?
Mid to high 80s.
93%.
Wow.
People freaking loved this one, Joe.
I think so. No, I mean, I heard good things. I even, my fiance's parents went and saw it.
Oh, yeah. It's not a happy movie, though. It's not. Just like
those
movies are not happy.
And from what I hear, it's not as high action. It's,
nope.
They tote that a little bit in the trailers, but I hear it's a lot of conversation and interaction based, right?
Yes, very much. It only bookends with action for the most part. Yeah. So if you're going in for action, which I kind of was a little, I was like, oh, okay. So the second one is way more action. That one's a huge war. It's like this one. Yeah, they could have renamed these things. Anyway, I know you've talked about this and you saw it, Joe, but the next one, Dunkirk, you liked it, but you said it was too loud, and everyone I talked to said it was too loud. But believe it or not, Joe, I'm just going to tell you right now, that one got the same score as War for the Planet of the Apes on Rotten Tomatoes, a 93% for Dunkirk.
Yeah.
Pretty high.
Dunkirk was a good movie. It was very much geared towards that kind of history buff, and it was basically you're just following this event through the eyes of a British soldier.
pretty much. And you enjoyed it to some extent, right?
Yeah, I'll tell you what, the planes and the dogfighting was probably the most exciting and just ultimately the most realistic war type thing you've ever seen. It was unreal. And every time, I don't know if it was just the theater, but they had the volume up really high. Every time a gun went off, it was like it was right over your shoulder, and I jumped every time.
Yeah.
But it was really good, a little depressing. You know, it kind of really illustrates the seriousness of what war is. So
cool,
good, and I'm sure anybody who's a history buff probably loved it.
Joe, I need to know one thing. Out of all the summer movies, what one for you is like the summer movie? Which one is it? I can guess, but I just want to. I need to hear these words, as Izzo would say.
Wonder Woman.
How dare you? No, I'm great. I'm happy to hear that. Wonder Woman. I'm going to be just a little bit different, and for me, I'll say Spider-Man: Homecoming. The nice thing is, for me, those feel like so close. My scores were pretty close for those ones, but I thought they were both phenomenal. I thought it was a good win for both, like Sony and for Warner Brothers to have a good Spider-Man movie and then just a good DC movie like in the summer, because like for both of those it was kind of like especially Wonder Woman is like we heard bad things and we haven't seen a really good DC movie, and it was like, okay, that's good. So it's just nice to have a good win for DC and just say like, okay, we might have something here. Like, yeah, Patty Jenkins.
You know something, Jimmy? A lot of the times when for me to make that decision, a lot of it has to do with how I felt walking out.
Yeah.
Wonder Woman, I felt like I was on like a little bit of an endorphin high. Like I feel like it hit my emotions in the right ways and got me amped enough. I got in my truck. I started cranking some Papa Roach rock music, whatever. And I was just jamming to it. And I kind of would like I picked the song that I felt like appropriate that kind of went with the theme.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just like, man, yeah. And I was kind of like rocking, and went and got a car wash, and then I just kind of cruised down the road back home and really enjoyed it. And I was kind of reminiscing on it. And certain movies do that for me, certain movies don't. And for some reason, Wonder Woman was the only one that really did that for me. It really amped me up.
I would say I feel the same way, but then again, when I walk out of like a Fast and Furious or like Mad Max, I like, especially getting behind the wheel of something, I'm like, let's go, like yeah, like just like want to play the music and just feel like driving around like a crazy person. But yeah,
I won't lie, Transformers made me feel that way just a little bit because of the cars. Because the cars were the best part, and when I walked out of there, I'm like, man, I wish I still had my Mustang. Oh, hey, we didn't talk about Fast 8.
Oh.
Yeah.
I guess that came out, technically that was a spring movie that came out in April.
Yeah, exactly. So not a summer movie,
but still, yeah. It
was probably one of the better ones. I enjoyed this one more than some of the others.
I just want the Jason Statham rock movie. Yeah. That's all I want. I don't want any of the new stuff anymore. I'm like, just get those two in a movie together and just let them go.
That's a good example of a movie. When I walk out of there, I'm like, in the door to my Mustang anymore.
Yeah.
I'm just like, oh.
Sorry, Bill.
Yeah, what you gonna do?
That's all right. Well, there you go. Our summer movie wrap up. We want to know what your favorite summer movie was, or one that you want to see and you still haven't yet. Please let us know in the comments below or tweet at us anytime. Before we get to the next,
before we get to the next segment, can we just say that I'm coming into my own here as a critic? Think how close I was on every one of those Rotten Tomato scores.
That's why I want you to review more things, man. Like, you're good. Like, not just because you think that was like the score, and I don't want you to just like, being a good critic doesn't mean you're just going to agree with everybody else. But if you're kind of near the averages for everybody, at least you have an eye for it. And like, you could say, hey, like, Wonder Woman is great, but it wasn't perfect or what. But yeah, you should.
Either way, I'm on point. Somebody should take me to Vegas right now. Let's go.
We need to have you have more reviews, Joe. Alien Covenant was just the first one, and like now we'll just whatever's next. But yes, before we move into the next segment of the show, I would like to take a moment, and Joe, together, we can salute our commander, Jonathan Larson. Thank you so much for all you do.
You're a good man, Jonathan.
Very good. We salute you. Thank you so much. And as Jonathan likes to say, their fate concerns me. Yours does not. And if you want to be a commander yourself, all you have to do is be a $100 patron over on patreon.com/criticalreviews. But I'll save that for later. But thank you, Jonathan. We really do appreciate it. But now, Joe, we get to move into the segment of the show called
Timekillers.
Timekillers. The games we've been playing, the movies we've been watching, the TV shows we've been viewing, the cookbooks we've been attempting to read because they're so beautiful, so hungry all the time. Anyway, I think you should go first, Joe. What have you been killing time with?
Still been playing a bit of For Honor. Lately, I have been addicted to playing Overwatch Mayhem mode. I love it.
It's his life. He's like, it's great. I love it.
Really, I haven't been playing a lot of games lately. Haven't had time, and I haven't been around. But this week, I've played a couple nights in a row. I played Overwatch Mayhem mode. I tried the team deathmatch, by the way. Kind of difficult, and you got to be on your A game. It's pretty legit. But then that Mayhem mode, I'm just addicted to. I think it's such a blast. It adds a bit of longevity. Adds a bit of longevity to whatever game mode you're playing, like a payload. And typically they always are payloads, which I like.
Yeah.
It's a lot of fun. I'm just digging it, and you're not dying. Like, I will oftentimes go through a match and I will only die once.
Yeah, man. Especially if you're tanking. It's like,
yeah, especially if you're tanking. And I'm starting to figure out who the tanks to go with are. And like, as Winston, I can almost go on forever.
Dude, Zarya and Winston, just always play Zarya and Winston. It's too hard to kill him. It's like, just jump away.
It's so hard to kill him, especially Zarya. Zarya is almost impossible to kill. But like, is Winston... I figured out that the main strategy you got to go with in that game, especially if you're playing with a couple buds, is you have to go with at least one or two heroes that have some sort of shield.
Yeah, yep.
Right. And Winston is almost too perfect because you can constantly lay it down and regenerate it over and over, so it's like almost never going down. And the fact that it creates like 2 buffer zone walls between you and enemies, it's just too good. It helps the people on your team and stuff. So, yeah, I don't know. But the one downfall to Winston is you can't kill him as quickly as you would think. Like, that electric gun is good, but the damage output is insane. Is like a Soldier 76 or Bastion or anything
no
like
way,
that.
no.
So.
You're just there to piss people off and attack the snipers. Yeah,
yeah,
like,
exactly.
I'm up in your face. Hi.
And eventually, I was doing that to a point where people were getting super annoyed, and they started to try and target me, and they couldn't kill me just because I just kept jumping away, get health, come back. Because my mobility is like tenfold. I can jump constantly.
Yeah,
and it's great. But anywho, other things I've been killing time with. Rewatched Wonder Woman for the first time since theaters this past weekend. That was good. Otherwise, a lot of work, a lot of stuff to take care of personal life wise, and buying a house.
Yeah. Hey, yeah. Congratulations! I can't wait to come and check that place out. We'll have to shoot something there. Start doing the podcast there.
I have to leave all this. I like this place. This is a nice apartment, but on to bigger and better things. So. How about you?
I got to play a little bit. Well, okay, I'll preface this. I was in Seattle for the last few days. That's probably why you're seeing this podcast a little bit late, unless you're watching it, later on, and you're like, it's just coming out. But I was hanging out.
It's a good city, Jimmy.
It's a great city. Like, Seattle's a good city. Yeah. I've been to a lot of large cities, but I really like Seattle. It has a good vibes to it. But I was there with some of our lovely Legionnaires, Peyton and Case, and they were so nice to put me up, and I was hanging out with them. I got to play a little bit of Splatoon 2, which is this game where it's a third-person shooter, Joe, and you play as this kid who can also turn into a squid, and you shoot. Basically, all you have to do for the regular game mode is try to paint, like, with your team's color, more of the map than the other team. So if you shoot like somebody else with your color ink, you can kill them, or you're like just trying to get more of a percentage. You're trying to get 51% to their 49 at least. And so like it's not so much about killing other players as much as just like, hey, if you were able to like get around them and like paint their area and like paint it up, like that would really help your team. So it was really fun. It was kind of interesting controls, but I enjoyed it. Besides that, I got to play a bunch of games at PAX West. That's where I was. And I played Battle Chasers. I played Divinity Original Sin 2. I played Dragon Ball Fighters. I watched my friend play Ooblets. We did a bunch of stuff, and we are going to have videos about that coming soon. So you'll hear me talk all about that over there with him, because I don't want to be redundant. But it was really excellent. I got to meet up with a lot of people. I met Andrea Renee for a second. I met Danny O'Dwyer. I met up with the Easy Allies. It was really cool. Shook some hands, gave some hugs out, and got to meet up with some of our other Legionnaires like Chris and Riley, who were just lovely individuals. I'd love to hang out with them more often. They were so cool. So yeah, that's kind of what I've been killing time with, just that and flying and doing all that sort of fun stuff. So, but I'm back, baby. And it was a good time, but I'm excited to get caught up on other things like Attack on Titan Season 2 and Blacklist. I think is the next thing I'm going to get back into, because James Spader, baby. That's why I love Age of Ultron so much. I just really like James Spader. I really do. All right, Joe, time to move into the final segment of the show, my favorite segment, community feedback and questions. First question comes in from our friend Missile Mage. So what's your favorite video game side quest? For me, Joe, I know you don't play a lot of RPGs, so I'm happy to take the ball here and go running with it. I don't remember if it's a main quest or not, but in The Witcher 3, you get to like hunt down a Leshen, and there's this moment where you like go into the woods, and it does this kind of horror movie thing where it like walks behind a tree, and there's a big distance between the next tree, and then it comes out behind the other tree, like it moved across that space. And like fighting that thing and like the build up to it, and like realizing that like people were being murdered by this thing, and it was powerful. I really enjoyed that whole thing, and I think that's probably one of my favorite side quests in a video game. There's probably some in Dragon Quest VIII that would be really good as well, but that's the first one that comes to mind. He comes with a follow-up saying is possible add-on, favorite romance in video games and favorite romance in movies. Joe, do you have any favorite romance in a game, or especially like a movie that you really, really like a lot that you can think of off the top of your head?
I think the one that really stood out to me and felt appropriate for the film.
Yeah, I was thinking about that too. Like I like Aragorn and Arwen's romance because it's such a long distance relationship, but you can tell like it's still a big thing in the movies. Like you don't just forget about Arwen. They always shoot back to her. And like Aragorn has kind of like, he's like I want to be with you, but I can't, like I don't want to, ruin your life. And she's like, this is my life to give to you, and I want to give this life to you. And and I love that he finally at the very end accepts her, and she's just there for him. And it's just like, like, it's not the perfect romance, and there's Eowyn who's involved at kind of some points, but he's just kind of like, yep, I kind of got a lady back home, but she's moving on, and just that love just kind of stays strong, and I like it. It doesn't seem forced at all. It seems very natural, and it's very cool to me. I like it a lot.
I always liked the romance aspects of Smallville.
Oh, sure. Like Lana and Clark?
Yeah, that whole thing. I mean, they played off it really well. Sometimes it felt a little dragged out, but they played off it really well at times. Kind of had a little bit of nostalgia to it. Maybe you had that high school crush, that sort of a deal. And I think they do a good job with that. And it's a nice secondary dynamic to the whole storyline, if you will. Maybe even more third dynamic. But just adding that aspect into a TV show or film, it just gives you more to play with. You know what I mean? More things to develop your story on.
Yeah.
So,
definitely. Yeah. Another one that pops to mind quick is just Geralt of Rivia from Witcher and Triss Merigold, but you kind of choose that romance, and that's the one I've always chosen since the second game. And I just really like Triss. She's a mage, and she's red hair. She's kind of got her own thing going on. She doesn't need Geralt at all, but they have a fun kind of back and forth, and I like her. She's her own woman. I appreciate that. Night Warrior 29 asks us, what do you think, which companies do you think have no success in most of the games that they release? and they need to change that. Is there any companies that you can think of, Joe? I was trying to think of some that like I think are just not, to me, like successful. Obviously they have to be to keep going, but I can't think of any like off the top of my head where I'm like every game they release is kind of like, like besides like a mobile game company where I'm just like
reoccurring games of a franchise, or just like single release games that just tanked.
I think it's probably maybe a combination of the two. I don't know if you want to be like, oh, Microsoft is releasing flop after flop or something like that, you know?
Well, let's face it. I mean, you can go to Best Buy and you look at like the discount shelf, or the Walmart, and you look at the discount shelf and you're like, I never even knew that game existed. And it looks like chintzy is all get out. You know what I mean? So there's plenty of them. And the reason that we can't think of any is because we don't really tension on some of these flops, you know. So
yeah, I think that's a good thing, and I'm happy we can't think of like a gaming company right away. I think for me, like Telltale, the guys who make all those kind of like point and click adventures, like they make really buggy games, even though they're cool games, like they're buggy as heck, and it really pisses me off, especially in a story driven game. Like you can't have problems like technically. It's like what are you doing? And our final question comes in from our one of our captains from the Dora Milaje, Anna. #Critical Podcast. What games/movies were were revolutionary for their kind? What kind of elements did they have that we still see today? Joe, I've been thinking about this. Here's two for games. GoldenEye 007 back on N64, revolutionary for first-person shooters. Yes. Takes where like Doom and stuff, but then brings it to multiplayer. That's
Agreed.
Like we have that. We have like first-person shooter multiplayer games even more so because of the success of that game. And Super Mario 64, even though at the time I wanted Super Smash Bros. Much more, Super Mario 64 takes 3D made 3D platforming and made it crazy and amazing. That game still holds up today. Super duper great. As far as movies, I'm looking at you, Spielberg. Jaws starts off summer movie blockbusters, and Jurassic Park, baby. We still see people try to do this stuff. Not the same love, not the same respect, just not the same reverence for things like they used to have, Joe. That's what people need to get back to. Like they kind of want to do it, but they just don't have it. But like those movies were revolutionary, like just crazy. It's like, hey, we have practical effects, but we can't show it off all the time. We don't have the technology for CGI as much as we want, so we can't show it off all the time. We have to find a way to make it work. Those movies do that, and that's what I love about them. They still hold up. It's like, gee, dang it. And we're seeing a resurgence of that in Star Wars. People are like, I want practical effects, and they're putting those back in there now because people are like, I love that in the old Star Wars, those old like big blockbuster movies. It's cool to see it come back.
Jurassic Park is like a perfect scenario. You know, the thing at the time, it was so original and had never been done before in any way, shape, or form. And they treat it well and with a sense of respect. And they, like, as a kid, if you're a young boy, 5 years old, whatever, and you're not obsessed with dinosaurs, I question your mental everything.
Or a young girl. Young girls could love them just as much.
Or a young girl. You can love them too. But, you know, like me as a young boy, I was obsessed with dinosaurs. I had the books. I would look at the books constantly.
Yep.
I learned everything I could about them. And saw Jurassic Park, the first one. First off, I was young. I was scared out of my mind. I should not have been watching it. Second off, all I could think is these things were really real, and this is what they were like. You know, probably not the best representation because they just turned them into like basically murderers, but it was just outstanding to me because I was like, oh, these animals were real at one time, and this is like just Fantasyland galore for me at that age, and it still is. It's just awesome. Now that we've been exposed to it so much, you look at like Jurassic World, and it's just like it fell flat, but it's like, you know, you do lose sight of the fact that, man, besides the stupid Indominus Rex and the blue Velociraptor and all that, whatever, these at one time were real creatures, you know?
Yeah.
Which really blows your mind. But anywho, revolutionary films, Jurassic Park, Jaws is another good example. And even the first Alien movie, Jimmy, which was back in the 70s.
Yeah, I was gonna bring that up. I would kind of want them to make a Jurassic Park that's like R-rated now, where they're like stuck in a facility with dinosaurs and they have to have like guns and stuff. They have to like take them out or they're gonna get taken out. I would love like that last bit of Jurassic Park where they're having to fight them off. Like that would be a movie right there. I'd be like, I'd watch that.
Cool. Yeah, it could be cool. But I agree with your game pick too. 007 GoldenEye, right?
Yeah, that game is just like a legendary game, regardless of how you feel about it.
I
will say,
two
other
nuke tube or the rocket launcher, you were automatically a winner.
Yeah, exactly. No, if you pick Odd Job, you're a horrible person. It's like you can't be the little guy. Nobody can hit you. I will say the last two things, obviously Star Wars, huge, like changed up to, like Alien kind of in that same time period. And then Lord of the Rings. I think there's so many movies that have tried to be Lord of the Rings since Lord of the Rings with like big, epic, high fantasy, and just not many have come close. A Game of Thrones sounds like it's the closest thing to it. And that's cool to hear, but it's just like the love and dedication and the time that went into Lord of the Rings is like, that's like a whole boy. Like it's so good. It's still
for the most part, Game of Thrones is it fills that void of Lord of the Rings not being a reoccurring thing anymore. And also the other thing that's nice about it is, excuse me, my eye is itching really badly.
That's okay.
It has the books to back it up.
Yeah.
Recent couple seasons, it's been, congruent with the books, and the books are great too. It fleshes out even more detail and it allows you to relax and listen to it and not be overly stimulated by anything. You can kind of soak it up a bit better sometimes. I don't know. Let's not get on a Game of Thrones tangent, but good palate or not palate cleanser, but wet the palate. Like between, like if you want to go back and watch Lord of the Rings, good on you. But this is a good filler, I think. So
Joe, I forgot to do this at the top, but I had asked the community, because we had a community feedback question, which we always try to do each week. We asked them what their favorite animated shorts were from Overwatch, and we got a few responses here. Missile Mage said Alive, the one featuring Widowmaker and Tracer. He said, mainly because of the camera work that goes into the action. Love that. And the fact that Tracer recalls instead of taking the bullet. If you watch it, you'll know what he's talking about. And it's like, I don't think she knew. She didn't know what was happening in that moment. She's like, okay, I'll get out of the situation. Like the ramifications afterwards. But she's like, it's like, because Tracer probably would have taken that shot otherwise. Our buddy Ryan, we love you, bud. He said, I would say a tie between Dragons and The Last Bastion. Both give a good story and have emotion. Look at that. Right there with us, man. I love that answer. That's a really good one. And we got a person. She says Rise and Shine. We kind of took that one out of the running, but that's a really good one. That's very The Martian, like we talked about. It's just like a person trapped trying to be scientific and intelligent to get out of a bad situation.
Overcoming part of me felt a little sad during that one too. So maybe that's why I didn't pick it, but it was
depressing.
Good.
Dude, they hit you. Good. It's like she's checking all like the life signs and you're like it's like,
and I'll say it was in the running. It was very well done. The animation is probably some of the best next to the Last Batch.
And when they don't do action in one of those, that's when the animation, I think, shines through even more because you see every little detail. Because you're like, there wasn't like, she wasn't fighting anybody. It was just like, like, look at like the smoke coming off of her coffee or whatever. Just like the little details. It's like, man, so good. Thank you guys so much. You guys ever have a question or a comment or some feedback like that for us on the show? All you have to do is tweet the hashtag Critical Podcast to either one of us. I am, you can find me at Go Critical with a capital G or a capital C. Or you can find me on my personal Twitter, which is just at JimmyGood013. If you want to tweet at Joe, all you have to tweet is at
Lever_627. That's Lever just like Beaver, only with an L. The graphic will be right here.
Yes. The community feedback question, I think, for next week should be what is your favorite, summer film, or which one do you think you would have liked the most if you would have seen one or seen those ones? We want to
hear that.
Yeah, I'm definitely interested to hear that too. yeah, if you want to see my face playing some games sometime, just stop over on Twitch. We're playing stuff N64 all the time. Probably do some throwback stuff tomorrow. We'll see how it goes.
You and I are due for a bro down, pal.
Yeah, we are. Well, Destiny 2 like just came out. I know we talked about getting that, but I'm not sure.
Really?
Yeah, it did. It was like one of those things where it came out like right as PAX was happening. So I was like, I will come back to this. Like,
oh, I didn't even realize that. So what are we thinking? Maybe try and get after that this weekend if we have time?
I'm going to have to start up on it. Yeah, I might this week. We'll see. I do want to start playing it. I want to get a review in progress out next week. But it might be one of those things where it's like we play a bit and we're going to have to play a lot of online stuff to know how like strong it is. Because I don't think the campaign is going to be too long. But I do want to get after it with you boys because that'll be fun. That'll be good. I want to, oh, for sure. I want to thank a few people. I would like to thank This Is Daleb for our amazing intro and outro music. And I want to thank the one and only Yoren Evers. If you're ever looking to get some art done, all you have to do is tweet at him and he'll help you out. He does commissions. He's fantastic. But if you want to help him out, help us out, get better quality stuff for us, all you have to do is check out patreon.com/criticalreviews, where you can get some of that sweet, sweet Yoren Evers art and help support us at the same time. We really appreciate it. Just like Jonathan, who's donating $100 a month. Like, that's insane. We love it. But we thank you to all of our patrons. We're in September now, a few months into operation. We appreciate all you guys who've been here since day one. Appreciate all you guys who are just showing up this month. Really, really do. Thank you guys. It means a ton to us. Next week, I'm not really sure what next week's going to be, but that's okay because we might be talking about fall video games here, Joe. We got a lot of stuff coming, so we might need to talk about it. Get ready. Oh yeah, man, we're getting into it now that the chill is coming. Yes, I'm excited about it. But thank you, Joe. Thank you to all of our lovely Legionnaires. We really appreciate it. And all I have to say is remember to adapt and overcome. And we'll see you next time. Bye.